Why are we called Negroes? Why are we deaf, dumb, and blind? Why is everybody making progress, yet we seem to be lagging so far behind? Why are we mistreated? Why are we in this condition, stripped of our name, our language, our culture, our God, and our religion? Here in America, all of our religious training has been gotten by the preacher. He has told us of a heaven way up in the sky that we can't enjoy now, but rather after we die. But all of the years that we're living, for us there's nothing but hell, pain.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Lancescurv. Today, I want to introduce a dynamic young man who is not only a guest. We can't call him a guest. This is family. And with family, we back him up 100% on everything he says on this platform and the vast accomplishments that he's achieved, and always comes through to share the information and to share the love. And I just want to say that it's been such a wonderful ride so far, ever since meeting back 11 years ago. It has been nothing more than, just edifying. And so without further ado, while he may have a different rendition of his name, Dr. Vibert White, Dr. V. Issa, I'm going to open this banner for you, and we're going to just give the floor to you, because I'm so interested in what you have to say and what you have to share. My brother.
Yeah. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum to you.
Walaikum salam, brother.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning to your many listeners across the globe. Brother Lance, it's a wonderful experience, and it's a wonderful honor to be on your platform again.
Thank you.
We have very, very few platforms today that are that's serious. We have a lot of platforms where people are joking. People have crude and ugly jokes. Just a lot of buffoonery. But your work is serious because you're about the liberation of our people. And to show that you are trying to help us and liberate us, you have decided to move from a beautiful home you had in Orlando to build a beautiful mansion that you have now in West Africa, Ghana. Tonight, it's a very, very interesting night and a very interesting day. A couple of days ago, I had the opportunity of a brother and a sister sending me a statement that the Minister Farrakhan of the Nation of Islam was going to give today, this afternoon. And this statement was about a lawsuit. At the time, I didn't know much about what he was talking about and where he was going with this. But this afternoon, about 2 or 3 hours ago, I had the opportunity to listen to Minister Louis Farrakhan of the Nation of Islam. And he brought forth a lawsuit against the Anti-Defamation League, the ADL, Jonathan Greenblatt, Rabbi Abraham Cooper, and several others who are involved or gatekeepers of the social political forum in this country when it comes down to issues of Jews and Israel. He stated that he waited 40 years to bring forth this lawsuit. He stated that he waited for the right time. And when we look at the things that's taking place now, if you want to believe it or not, that if he's a divine chosen person or he's just really brilliant. Whatever way you want to look at it, I think it's remarkable that he has decided to bring this lawsuit along. He argues that one, him, Minister Louis Farrakhan of the Nation of Islam, had been unfairly branded as an anti Semite. He argued that the people who are with him have been branded as an anti Semite, and that there isn't any history of him or his people saying or doing any harm to the Jewish community. He even goes on to state that many of his mentors as a youth were Jews, and he respects their culture and admires many things in their society. But while the minister is talking about himself and the Nation of Islam, he is also talking about other individuals who have been hit with the sting of being an anti Semite. He mentions people such as Nelson Mandela. Remember the great Nelson Mandela, head of the ANC, fighter against apartheid, that Israel and the Jews in the United States labeled him as an anti Semite because he argued during his tenure that Israel supported the apartheid regime. He called them out. And they said that he was an anti Semite. Then also President Carter that he mentioned, Jimmy Carter, who is um, suffering now. He is in hospice care. And he was depicted as an anti Semite as well, because he began to say and argue that why do we have to support Israel in the way that we do? He wanted to see the reason. Why is this so important to the United States? Why he was the president. And they took him to task. Jesse Jackson, who ran for the Democratic National Presidential uh, campaign in 1984 and 1988, they depicted him as being an anti Semite because of his questioning of Jewish interests and Jewish attitudes in trying to control his campaign. And he called New York, or used the term Jaime Town, not in a derogatory manner, but in the fact that New York has the largest Jewish population of any city outside of Israel. So that's what he meant. But they depicted him as being an anti Semite. The minister also mentions Desmond Tutu, a man that I knew very well who stayed in my house in Chicago, and a man that I had several conversations with over the years until his death. A man that I know personally is not an anti Semite, and a man who loves all human beings. He is the Archbishop of the Episcopalian Church. So he goes across the board and says that people who have voiced criticism with Jewish interest and decided that there should be a debate or dialogue with their activities in the civil rights movement, the human rights movement, the economics of various societies, wars, and with the general ideas of Israel. He stated that when people bring these things up, they are looked upon as being a hater of Jews. What the minister did this afternoon was revolutionary. He did something that many of us have thought about, we talked about, we argued in our own little corners, in the back rooms, in the basements of our homes and churches and synagogues and masjids, but who dared not say what he said today. We talk about it, but most of us would did not have the guts nor the strength to say it, because the Jewish community as a group, not individually, but as a group, they have been able to use their influence to get rid of people who questioned them. For example, Lamont Hill, a brilliant young professor out of Philadelphia, who was a mainstay on CNN for about a year. Brilliant analysis. But when he went to the UN and made the comment from the river to the sea, his contract was canceled immediately from CNN. I remember writing him and telling him that I was proud of him and to hold his toughness, hold his foundation. But before he could even read the letter, he went and apologized and he was fired anyway. And we see this same trend throughout academia. That's the area that I work in, but also throughout the political system, throughout the business world, throughout the entertainment industry. So the minister, what he did was revolutionary. He said that in his mind, now I'm paraphrasing, that it's time for him to take the fight to them. The time is now. And the time is absolutely now, because right now we're living in a period whereby censorship of anything that is critical of the Jewish community is highlighted and enhanced. And it's almost to the point now that we're living in a military state, a state that depicts a bureaucracy that says you have to follow a certain narrative, and if you don't, you will be silenced. Now, what's interesting is that this silencing that the minister picked up has always been the case with African Americans, where African Americans had to tote the line. And anyone who got out of line, especially in reference to this Jewish, um, Israeli, African American, African debate, if they got out of line, they were silenced. I'll give you a case in point that just came across the tube a couple of days ago. You have Hakeem Jeffries, who is a congressperson. I believe he is out of New Jersey. Now he's very conservative to me, and I think he is an apologist for other communities. I mean, I got on him not long ago because he led a delegation of members of the Black Congressional Congress, Congressional Black Caucus, to Israel. And I said to his group, and I sent him a notice, that why would you do that? He responded to understand racism and genocide and that type of thing, which I thought it was very foolish, because in response I said, if you wanted to understand racism and genocide, you don't have to go outside the United States. We have plenty of examples right here. Blacks, Native American people, and others, especially in reference to genocide with Native American people. But he went there. Then I said, since you went there, why did not you travel to Palestine? No answer. And thirdly, why didn't you confront the prime minister about the mass deportation that his government is doing to African people? No response. But still, even though he is what I call a reactionary member of a clan that's against the interests of the African American community at large, he was still forced this week to respond to questions that dealt with his uncle, Leonard Jeffries. Now, some of you may remember Leonard Jeffries from the 1980s and 1990s. smart fella, always willing to highlight the contradictions of Jews and whites and other people who oppressed the African American community and the African community. A man who made the wearing of African garb chic, wore it every day. Beautiful black man, brilliant debater. And New York, he is a professor in New York. They gave him hell. And he was a friend to Minister Farrakhan. Well, this week, Hakeem Jeffries was put on a ruler. A ruler, I said, that really says that let's see where you stand. And he was put on that ruler to defend his remarks of defending his uncle when he was a young man, a man about 20 years old. That was unfair. That was unright. Now, when I saw this, to me, it was nothing more than a test to bring forth the litmus test, a test to bring forth a litmus test that he and other African Americans are going to be asked today and tomorrow and the next week of where they stand and their views on Minister Farrakhan. That's what it was. And it's very, very interesting with that. But it also, he's bringing forth Minister Farrakhan again, issues whereby we should ask and we should take it to the court. And why is this? He maintained that him, along with African Americans and along with other people, white and even some Jews who questioned their own people in their own state, and whites, that when they question, they have been attacked and their First Amendment rights have been taken from them or negated. Now, what are the First Amendment rights? Now, some people say, oh, I know what the First Amendment rights are. I remember giving a talk at the University, Florida A&M University Law School, fine law school. And I asked the question to about 500 students and professors, what are the first 10 amendments of the American Constitution? Of course, they're a Bill of Rights, but what are they? And no one were able to recite them, I was flabbergasted and saddened and upset and angered. But the point is that the minister is saying that the First Amendment, his First Amendment rights were violated. Not only him, but African Americans and other people. What are they? The freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of press, freedom of assembly, freedom of petition. They were negated. Along with this, as being labeled as an anti Semite, he has been barred from countries unfairly. He has been barred from universities and other areas to give talks. And people who are with him, they may not be at his level, but they have lost their jobs, they have lost their careers, they have lost several things. In fact, about it, last night, I spoke at a masjid, community center in Orlando. And in the last 3 nights, 3 days, 9 physicians in the state of Florida that I know of who question Israel's activities in Gaza has been abruptly fired. These are the things that the Minister Farrakhan is talking about. Now, let's put this up a little bit farther in reference to what's taking place in the Gaza Strip right now. Of course, we all know the story that Hamas, a organization who argues that their people have been unfairly treated by the Israelis, that the Israelis had turned Palestine and Gaza into an apartheid state, a place where they argue that they have the highest level of illiteracy in the world because kids have to drop out of schools, schools are being destroyed, a place where water doesn't run freely. They talking about it's not running freely now, but even when during good times, it's not running very well. A place that has only one electrical utilities station for that region, a place about the size of Philadelphia that has almost 3 million people living in that confinement. In comparison, Philadelphia has about 1.2 million. So you have Hamas stating that they responded because they are fighting for self-determinism. Now, it's not the case if I believe them or you believe them, but that's what they're arguing. Believe them or not. But these lawyers, these doctors said something in defense of Hamas and they were fired. This is unfair. Now, what else has taken place along with this sanctioning now that Minister Farrakhan has piped himself into? What is it? Well, the Israeli government said yesterday to Al Jazeera, the television station that has done a fairly good job in giving us a bird's eye view as what is taking place in Gaza. And the Israeli government, along with the United States government, told them not to speak so openly or not to be so objective with their coverage of the war. They wanted them to be biased in reference to Israel. That is, Israel is doing what is right and what is good. Because both governments stated that when you're objective, you're basically allowing people to draw their own decisions. And we don't want that to happen. We want to create the narrative. So we see that taking place. Let's come on to what has taken place in my state, Florida, which is the fourth most populated state in the country. A very important state, a state where the governor just recently bragged about how he sent ships of weapons to Israel and that he is encouraging American Israelis to go there to fight. And he then, on top of that, he began to sanction activities at universities. That is, university students or organizations that dare to support Palestine's position or to give a perspective of Hamas. One, those students and universities should be dismissed. Secondly, they should be outlawed by the university to function as a group, a student group. And thirdly, if the universities do not do what DeSantis want them to do, they will work to have that university or college lose funding. That's sanctioning. That's something that's despicable. You know, I mean, when we see this, we can't help but bring up the Bolsheviks of Russia in the 19th century, going into the 20th century. We can't help to bring up the clerk and apartheidship in South Africa that used those types of sanctionings. We can't help to bring up the dictatorship that of the Cuban regime before Castro. It was a dictatorship, even though they called it a president. See, were views that was contrary to the president of Cuba. Those people were put in jail, like Castro. He was put in jail and ultimately deported and sent to Mexico. Then he came back. So that's a terrible thing. So we have that taking place. Now, that's also taking place that the minister is dovetailing to is that the United States Congress and Senate. We have a new Congress leader in the House. He's the new House Speaker. His first rule, his first resolution in office, not even in office a good hour, was a resolution that stated we will always stand with Israel. Give Israel a carte blanche with no question. And here's something for you, my friends and brothers and sisters, no matter where you are. It's that the entire Congress, except for 8, voted to go along with that. The ones who voted to go along with it, some of them were Muslims. Many of them were black. Several of them were women. A host of them said they were part of the woke or revolutionary progressive force that's taking place. But in reality, all of them, except for a few, were part of the establishment and the narrative to continue this concept that the Jewish community, Israel, cannot be questioned. The ones who voted against this resolution, I think you should take the time to take their names down. Not that they were perfect, because they have a lot of problems themselves on votes of supporting Israel and votes of supporting militarism and in the Middle East and in Africa. But one is named Talib, you know, she's out of Michigan. Brown, Jamal Brown out of New York. Corey Bush out of Missouri. Um, Anglin Carson out of Indiana. Al Green out of Texas. Summer Lee out of Pennsylvania. Alexandra Ocasio Cortez out of New York. Omar out of Minnesota. And Ramirez out of Illinois. Only 8 of them. What's the point that I'm saying? The point now is that now if you say anything, again, that is contrary to Israeli dialogue or argument, you are sentenced, you are sanctioned, you will lose your home, you may end up in jail, and it's not a far reach, you may even lose your life. That's the period that we're living in. Here's something that's very interesting. I just remembered. There's a fella in Florida who is the owner, CEO of Hard Rocks Cafe. I've never been into one of those establishments. It's a casino, I believe, and probably some of you have been there. Jewish fella. He sent a letter to DeSantis telling him that he should immediately pour money from universities and colleges that have organizations that support Hamas and Palestine. Well, DeSantis did do that a couple of days ago, but the Jewish fellow said he didn't do it fast enough. So he pulled his endorsement. When I heard and I read about this, it wasn't so much about him pulling his endorsements and that type of thing. What concerned me was that this one man had that type of influence and that type of power to pull money from educational institutions that serve the needs of millions of people. Now, what do you mean millions of people? We talk about hundreds of thousands of students who need support to go to school and to finish, and who can possibly help their community, millions of people. And he was only concerned about his interest, but he had that type of power. And I could not think of one African American, one African, one Latino, one Greek, one Italian, you know, one Anglo American that had that type of influence. Perhaps there are some, but I couldn't think of them. Not with all the money that African American millionaires, and we have some billionaires, have. And no matter what all the degrees that I have a PhD, and there are hundreds of thousands who have PhDs as well, with all our money and education, I don't know of anyone within our group who had that type of influence or power. That's something to think about. So we're living in this state now, whereby it's a gag order on anything that is critical of that particular community or critical of Israel. And Minister Farrakhan is bringing it on the table. He is saying, I'm bringing it here for you to see. And I'm going to be the thorn in your side. And that lawsuit is going to be seen throughout the world as to where America really is in reference to justice, in reference to upholding its own constitution, and in reference to upholding this concept of cultural pluralism. Where does America stand? We know where it stands, but now it's going to be on Front Street in a legal setting. Now, the response may be this. They may dismiss it, the lawsuit, as having no credibility. That's what the JDL and the ADL are saying now. They say, oh, he's an anti-Semite, he's a bad guy, he called Islam a god of religion, Judaism a god of religion, and so forth. They may say that. Or they may say, let's take it to trial, let's hear your case, and still dismiss it or rule against it. Or they may say, the argument is strong, and Minister Farrakhan, the Nation of Islam, they have a legitimate beef, and we rule on their behalf. Whatever way the court decides to go, it's going to be a revolutionary precedent in the United States on race relationship and the issue of Israel and the Jewish American community. Can you question that community? Or you have to be quiet. There was a debate not long ago between Cornel West and Alan Dershowitz, the brilliant law professor from Harvard, Jewish fellow. And we know Cornell. He's one of our leading intellectuals. And he basically told Cornell, you don't have the right to question Jews. You don't have the right to question anything about Israel in reference to human rights. He stated that we have a carte blanche to do whatever we want to do with the Palestinians. One of the people who supported Allen made a statement in a tweet that for every Palestinian, no, for every Jew who was killed, the Jewish state has the right to take 136 Palestinian lives. That's interesting because when you say that, you're really saying that your life is more valuable than anybody else's life. And you basically, as well as saying that they're subhumans, they don't come up to your standards. This is no more than scientific racism that was put out by a person by the name of Arthur Gobineau in the 19th century, who listed a ranking system for the races of the world. Very interesting with that. And again, the United States supported it. So even the great Cornell, as long as he is speaking a dialogue that is based on liberalism, and domestic issues that are confined to the Black struggle, it's okay. But don't talk about the other stuff. In fact, I don't know if any of you remember, I'm talking about historically remember, when Martin Luther King began to question issues of the Vietnam War, again, many rabbis and many Christian ministers and many Black advocates still told him to shut up and said he had no right to question things outside the United States. Stick with what you know. Stick with what we allow you to talk about, and that's civil rights. So we have a lot of things that's going um, on that topic, and it's terrible, but it's a revolutionary move. He listed. You could go to his website, nationofislam.org, and go into the section that deals with the suit, and you can see the evidence that the minister brings forth. Hundreds of pages, 800 pages almost, of documents that you can look and read for yourself. And I think it's interesting that he listed it on a format that all of us can read, which really says that he has nothing to hide. And let's go to it. You know, what else is taking place is that um, the killing of Palestinians is unprecedented. Um, Yesterday at the United Nations Security Council, 2 days ago, rather, United Nations Security Council, Russia brought forth an element, a resolution calling for a ceasefire and the removing of and the release of hostages by Hamas. Very fair. The United States vetoed it because they wanted Russia to have harsh words against Hamas. Now, that's what's interesting about this and sad about it. You can save thousands and perhaps millions of lives by just supporting it. The little verbal spats can be handled at another time. What's more important, saving lives or the verbal spats? To the United States and Israel at the time, it was verbal spats are more important than the saving of lives. So I think also with this, the minister is also concerned about the spreading of this conflict. I mean, the United States sent 2 major warships into the area, saying that they're going to have to keep Hezbollah out. China responded with 6 ships to watch the American ships. 3 American bases that are illegally in Syria has been bombed. Lindsey Graham of the Republican Party wants to go in and invade Iran. America right now is in discussions about a draft because we're 400,000. We're 400,000 men in need because they're thinking about a 2-front war. We are are gearing up our nuclear arms. Russia is gearing up their nuclear arms. All of this is going to be very interesting where it stands. Now, some people, I was called earlier today after this announcement of the minister, and they kept on saying to me, well, it's a religious war. No, it's not. And I'm telling you, don't fall for this thing that it's a religious war. It's a political war. It's a war about self-determinism. Why do you say this, Dr. V. Issa White? Why do you say this as, I say this as a historian, and I say this as an observer. We have to remember that the conflict in the so-called Middle East really started with the Crusaders out of Europe. Europe was in its dark ages. They had no money, they had no food. They were internal strifes and tribal conflict, and they had to find something to rally around to bring people back together. What is that thing? Just have a religious war. So they went in and they began to attack Muslims, but also Jews. And Muslims and Jews in what was the Ottoman Empire fought aggressively against the Crusaders. Muslims and Jews saved Haifa, which is a very, very important town in Israel. Saved Jerusalem and saved other cities that the Jews hold very dear to their heritage and their heart. After they were able to push back the Crusaders after 100 or more years, the Jewish and the Muslim community lived in peace. Surely there's some differences, but it was a cultural pluralistic society, relatively living in peace. And they lived in peace until something came along in the 1917, near the end of World War I, called the Balfour Agreement, which was done by the British Empire. And that was pushed by the British and Irish Zionist group that stated we should now push for a homeland. A homeland before was rhetorical, but now it became three-dimensional. So as they began to push towards a homeland, what occurred? In 1948 and World War II, they said that let's find a homeland. First, they looked at Uganda. That didn't work out. Then they decided on what is now Palestine. Then we began to see elements of the breakdown. Not an element of Judaism versus Islam, but an element where people are losing their houses and their right to live without being questioned, without being asked. This was done by the UN and by British and American other Western forces without consulting the people of that region. To show you the hypocrisy of this, in 1974, the United Nations called for a two-state solution. Palestine and Israel, two separate countries, places where both people can live side by side. Guess what? The United States vetoed it. Why? Why did you veto it? Who was the president in 1976? I believe it was either Ford or Jimmy Carter. And they said because the people of Israel was not consulted. They didn't consult the Arabs in 48, but now you're saying that the people now Israel needs to be consulted. You have to ask the question now, why is this? What is the role that the United States have in reference to creating a dynamic that Israel should have a carte blanche? What is the role? Now, some of you may say I'm anti-Israel. I'm not anti-Israel. I'm anti-wrong. I think all people should have self-determinism. All people should have a right to determine their future, just like African Americans. We have a right to determine our future as a people, not to be negated by anyone. We have a right, like other people have a right, to voice their opinion, to write what they want to write. In fact, about it, I am so serious about this. If someone told me and said to me that the KKK should not have a right to say what they say, I would say they're wrong, even though it's appalling, even though that is wrong. They have that right. In fact, about it, Brother Lance, I'm probably the only guest you ever have on your show who actually had a conversation with David, head of the KKK, many years ago. Of course, he said things I did not like. But you got to talk. You have to be willing to have a dialogue. Because even Jesus, that we call Issa, asked the question, let's sit down and have a dialogue. Let us reason so we can make some sense out of all this conflict. And the Quran puts it this way. God made us in tribes and in nations so that we can understand each other. We can talk about our differences and come together as a humanity to work in the interests of humanity for the interests of the global society. But we have lost all of that. I mean, going back to the Israel thing, do you realize? I mean, on television, I'm hearing people refer to Palestinians as animals. As animals. There's something. When you begin to refer to people as animals, as beasts, what have you done to them? We as Black people, no matter if we're in Ghana, where you are, South Africa, Namibia, Senegal, Tanzania, Kenya, Mali, Haiti, Jamaica, Cuba, Brazil, Argentina, Mexico, Panama, no matter United States, wherever you are. If you're a Black person, you know that history. And when they begin to turn us into subhumans, they justify their treatment against the people. Native Americans, the Puritans, early Americans, they said that we can treat the Native Americans and fight against them and kill them. Why? Because they were heathens. Heathens meant that they did not believe like us, thus their culture was inferior, i.e., they are subhumans. We can treat them anyway. Remember, in the Chicago Exposition of Chicago's World Fair in 1898, I believe. No, a little bit later, 1898. Check me on that, someone. They put Africans in zoos on exhibitions, as they did people from the Philippines and Native Americans in zoos. Don't forget about the brother they had in a New York zoo, Brooklyn Zoo, for many years in the 1920s. This is very dangerous. And that's why Israel should be checked on this. Nothing about they don't have a right to exist. Of course, they have a right to exist. But they don't have the right to take the humanity out of other people. Hamas doesn't have that right either. No one has that right. And when you get a people who act like that, whereby they take the humanity out, you are telling another group of people that their lives are not valued, and you have set them up for extermination. I give you a case in point about this. You know, everybody talks about the Holocaust of the 20th century in Germany. Terrible thing that the Germans did, no doubt. But there was another Holocaust too that most of you all don't even think about. It was in Namibia, where the Germans massacred over 20 million African people. You don't talk about that, nor do you bring it up, because we've been conditioned not to. The only Holocaust that we should bring up and talk about and cry about is the European Holocaust. It's a terrible thing, of course. But there are other Holocausts and problems throughout the world. How about Leopard in the Belgium, Congo, cutting off hands, all right, and killing people for fun and cutting off their heads and stacking them up, and it's two skulls. That was done. No one talks about that either. And you, the brothers and sisters who are listening to me in Africa, that's your responsibility to bring those things up, because what I found is that while we talk about the conditioning of people in the Western Hemisphere, what I found is that many of you all are conditioned equally. Don't know the history of your own people. I remember I was in Dar es Salaam, and we was having a religious center, a religious program. And somebody asked me, why aren't you crying for this particular Quranic figure? And I said, before you cry for anyone, you have to begin to cry for your own. They asked, what do you mean? And as I broke down the history of what has taken place to people of African descent and African people throughout the world, they began to cry. But we've been conditioned to do this. I don't know, Lance, if you want to ask me any questions, or if there are any questions on the line that anyone may ask. I've been talking for, how long I've been talking? Maybe 45 minutes.
Your ears, brother.
You know, I was in Cuba once, and I was speaking to Fidel Castro. Well, he is speaking to me and a few others. That meeting was 4 hours. The man didn't stop, but the man was brilliant. Oh, the name of the person who has had the presidential dictatorship by the name of by so-called democracy. I just slipped my mind again. In Cuba, what's the name of the president before Castro in Cuba? Batista. That the United States supported. You see, like that. You know, it's also interesting is that while a number of Americans have gone over to fight for Israel and to fight for Ukraine, they're not allowing African Americans and they're not allowing Palestinians to go to fight for the Palestinians. They're not. And this brings up the same type of thing that took place when Ethiopia had a war against Italy. Remember, Ethiopia is the only country in Africa that was not subdued through colonialism. And we had a guy by the name of Mussolini, Mussolini, and he wanted to bring back the greatness of the Roman Empire. He wanted to gather all the land together, bring the empire back. Well, the Italians invaded Ethiopia. And Ethiopia beat the heck out of them. But Italian Americans were encouraged and allowed to go to fight for Italy, but African Americans were not allowed to go and fight for Ethiopia. These are little bits of history that you should know. To let you know that we have a lot of things to deal with and a lot of contradictions in our society and how we're going to function in the society. But one thing is certain, what the minister has done with this suit is going to determine that what type of state we have in the United States, reference to the Jewish community, the Israeli government, African Americans, and just generally people who want to speak openly about tough or controversial issues relating to that state, Israel. It's going to determine either we're going to have an open society to debate or we're going to have a closed society that is mandated by law whereby we will be restricted. We will have a gag order like the black judge has placed on Donald Trump. But Donald Trump, he said, I don't give a damn. He's going to talk anyway. You know, that's another issue. So what do we have, Lance?
Yes, so put the link inside the chat room. Anybody want to?
I can't hear you. We're having a lot of static.
On the background?
I don't know. I wish I could see some of the comments or concerns that we have with this. You know, as this suit continues, I would like to be able every so often to come on to give you a blow by blow as to what's taking place, because I am sure the media is not going to want you to know what is taking place. I'm sure about that. Because see, what's the next line of thought? If you have a complaint like this and it goes through the American court system, the federal court system, what's the next logical move? The next logical move is ultimately to take the United States to the World Court on issues of human rights violations against African American people and people of African descent, and for crimes against humanity. That's the next logical step. And also, what's going to be so interesting again with this is to see what our so-called leaders, religious leaders, political leaders, business leaders, civic leaders, what are they going to say on this issue? Are they going to say, well, the minister, he's crazy. He don't have a case. You should just be happy to be in America. Or are they going to say, he has a legitimate issue, something I felt? Let's see. everything, everybody is going to be on the table with this one. There's not
My
going to be
brother, we
no
have
place to hide. No
who's
place
joining
to
in, bro.
hide.
We have
Oh,
somebody
okay.
who wants
Thank you.
to
Oh,
add him
okay.
in.
Hey, Dr. White, how are you, sir?
Hey, my man, Christopher Blake from Florida. Good seeing
Yes,
you, my
sir.
man.
Man, you're doing an amazing job. I caught probably I tuned in about little after 7, but you've done an amazing job. Just it's incredible the depth that you bring, depth of knowledge and experience you bring to the table on these issues. It's just incredible.
Well, thank you, Christopher. I'm gonna introduce um, Christopher Blake to the readers. I mean, to the listeners. This man is involved in the Veterans Affairs. You know, we have a number of veterans in the United States who risk their lives to defend the concept of Americanism all over the world.
Hmm.
Many of them came home in body bags, and others came home body intact, but minds messed up. Some of them came home with parts of their bodies lost. The point
Right.
is that we have a large homeless population of veterans. We have a large group of veterans who need medical and psychological care. And Chris are finding these men in the streets and women.
Hmm.
And all the money that we're paying to continue wars, we're paying pennies to take care of these people. And this man, Christopher Blake, he has been on the scene for a number of years, walking the streets, literally walking the streets, finding people, trying to help them, utilizing his resources. And he has paid the price for speaking truth and doing well.
Well,
So
thank
I,
you, Dr. White.
at some stage, um, you got to get on the show with Lance and talk about what you have done because brothers and sisters, wherever you may be, we have a lot of freedom fighters out there
Hmm.
in America, and we're in different areas. Some, like Christopher Blake, is dealing with the veterans. Some are dealing with Black women and white women who are going through suicides. Others are dealing with the opioid issue. We got a lot of issues here, and that really tells you, Christopher, that we're in a fractured state.
Absolutely.
This thing got to be important for me, because right now I'm supposed to be looking at the Ngona, uh, um, um, what's his name?
Fury fight.
Tyson Fury fight.
Yeah, but
I
let me
don't
Oh,
tell
know.
you,
wow.
over.
Huh?
It's over. And they robbed Ngannou. He made Fury look like a rank amateur. And it's a robbery officially. I'm looking at all the reports from the fans and on other screens. I didn't see it, but overwhelmingly, this MMA fighter who was trained by Mike Tyson stepped in and beat the bricks off of Tyson Fury and made him look like an amateur. They're saying he should retire after this because this is basically an exhibition, but it can go places, And
Hmm.
they said it should be the heavyweight champ of the world in his first fight. And
What?
he had it, and Ngannou, I don't think they gave it to Fury from what I'm hearing, from what I understand, but Ngannou won it hands down. Hands down. Now, Christopher, we're definitely going to have you come on the show. If he's in Orlando, he looks very familiar. I know his face.
You might have seen me on the front page of the newspaper
Well,
at one point in time.
if you're in Orlando, I used to drive the 21 bus down Central Avenue, past Terry, all those different places, up and down for many, many years. So maybe I saw you out there dealing with the veterans and with stuff. So your face looks real familiar. When you came on, I was like, I know that guy.
Well, thank you, sir. Thank you. And I'd be honored if we could maybe make a connection on Tuesday. I'm going to be visiting with a veteran, a Paralympic veteran, to introduce him to the world and let them know what we're working on, which is a 40-unit community housing for veterans.
Let's do it. Like keep your phone charged up, and we can do it just like this through your phone, and we can bring it in live, and you could be like a reporter and just tell it, and we can go on as long as you want because I'm free on Tuesday.
Oh,
So,
wow, that is amazing because, you know, yeah, he owns 10 acres of land. He owned a lot more than that, but he, you know, sold it down so it's down to 10 acres, but he's already built a model home for veterans, a tiny home for disabled veterans. He's a disabled veteran himself from Vietnam. So his heart is into it, and we are, you know, I'm going to be visiting with him on Tuesday. And I think it'd be an amazing opportunity to introduce Johnny Alexander to the world.
I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to that because I have a special place in my heart for veterans and how many have been done so dirty. I know even before I moved from New York City to Orlando, Florida, I already knew that, but I saw it so much in the streets, going all through Central and Terry by the homeless coalition, downtown and all through those streets, Paramore, and even just all over Orlando. I know it well. I know those streets well, and I have worked in corrections there for several years before I started driving the bus. So I knew some who happened to get locked up, and I sat down with many as they told me their stories. And, you know, I have other connections that are very close to me where you give your life to the country, but you go to the VA for some kind of treatment, and they give you the runaround. They stall you. They act like or treat you a certain way. And it should be, and I said this on the show, and I'm not just saying this to echo what you're saying. We have all this money to have these wars out here. We have all this money for so much, but for those who served, there should be free housing. There should be free health care. You shouldn't have to worry about anything. You should at least have a basic bit of money that you know that you have lots of wiggle room with. The place that you live in that they build, it can be, doesn't have to be huge, right? It could be just enough and enough to have some dignity. And there should be a weight room there, workout room there, supermarket where you can go and get any food you want for free, so you don't dig into your money. Understand? So no, I've spoken about that. Me myself, because of the corporate interests of America and how they do everyone dirty, I never believed in going, but I don't knock those who did. You see what I mean? So it's a double-edged sword. So I'm not knocking you for going, but the thing is that for those who did go and they get done dirty, when you come back, you should be treated right. That's only fair.
Absolutely. And, you know, I think Dr. White brought up a very historical fact, or an actual fact, that of today, the homelessness in Orlando and in Orange County and all across America could be wiped out for how much did you say, Dr. White?
$25 billion.
We're spending hundreds of billions of dollars fighting wars in foreign countries to you know, support their borders. We're not doing anything about our southern border, and yet we could do away with homelessness and do away with food hunger for probably a fraction of what we're spending overseas to fight these foreign wars.
Exactly.
It's just unbelievable.
We have so much land in America in the warm belts, right? Well, it's something productive on a dignity level. Let the veterans get what they earned by putting their life up. And if some volunteer, have places in Texas or Florida, you know, warmer belts where we can have farming going on, and those who want to involve themselves in that and get paid on top of what they get with the, and it's not free living. They earned it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So if they want to get involved in it to make them productive, to say, hey, I got this, I earned this, I got my health care, I have my little place, have a little big courtyard, have a little nightclub there, whatever, you know, why not? Why not?
Absolutely.
So there's a lot of things I want to talk with you about. We'll get all our information back. You know, Vibrant will get everything. We'll talk direct. All my contact information is here. I'm like a fireman. Just jump up at the last minute and do a show. So it's written in stone. Whatever time is good for you. We don't have to say a time right. You know?
Yeah, we'll definitely nail that down and let you know.
Yeah.
As soon as we know what time we'll be ready to make the appearance.
Yes, and I know those who are veterans who listen to this program, they'll be very happy to support and spread the word. That's what it's all about.
Well, I'm honored, and thank you very much, Lance. It's an honor.
You're welcome. It's an honor to have you on.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
thank you, Christopher. I
Yeah,
mean,
you're
we
Wow.
welcome.
got some great people out there, Lance, that's doing some remarkable work like you. And right now is the time to bring all this together. That's why we call my campaign, our campaign, the Everyday People campaign. Because we're bringing people together, we're bringing activists together, people who really want to do something good, not just about America, but do something good that will benefit the world. Let me tell you something, Lance and the listeners. Um, the establishment now, guess what they've been saying? You know, there's some board saying that, hey, you know what, Dr. White and his campaign doing so well, he must be supported by Donald Trump. I kind of laughed about this. I mean, if he did support me, give me some money, that would be great. Because basically we're taking nickels and dimes from people who don't have much, but they're giving their little to us, and we're using it to the best of our ability because they are worried. So they want to label me as some type of, I guess, black reactionary conservative. I don't know how they want to do whatever they want to do.
Right. But what
But
I can say
this,
is that
but go ahead,
your
Lance. I'm sorry.
your living standard hasn't changed. You're in
Uh-uh.
the same home. You have always been one who is accessible. We know your way of worship, but it's to the true God that we all should be worshiping, right? And you have
That's
always been one for the people. I met you doing your work through Sister LG. I don't know if she wants you to put her name out, but she's a
right.
public figure also.
She had a big
And
protest yesterday, man.
wow,
You know, I just deviate 1 second about the sister. There was
sure, sure.
there's a young lady that was found hung from a tree in somebody's yard
In Orlando?
in Orlando, and this was a couple of months ago. And the police is trying to whitewash it or put it under the rug. They don't want to do an investigation. The media has said very little about it. But you know our sister. You know, whatever you may think about her, she is one that is tough, and she's going to fight for what she thinks is right in reference to people of African descent, Latinos, and poor whites. So she called a press conference, and I sent you information about that. And she called a protest. She had a march, and I think what she did is good, you know. And
Beautiful.
yeah, we got a lot of. We have another sister who is, she's running for office, and her name is Cynthia Harris. She's doing some remarkable things herself.
And she's been on the show several times, you know.
Oh, okay. She's
She's been
doing
to my
some
house several
remarkable.
times in the Antio
Oh,
studio.
she's
I know
doing
her
some
well.
remarkable things. Last week, you should know that I was instrumental in stopping a liquor store from being opened in one of our communities, Pine Hills, not far from where your house where your house used to be. It
Wow.
was on Hiawassee and what is that name? Big Street, way down by the hill.
Silver Star.
Hiawassee and
Silver Star?
no, not Silver
Silver
Star,
Star
the
Road.
other one. No, not the other way, going the other way. You're on Hiawassee. You're not going towards the interstate, but you're going away from it. And there's a big Walmart. You know the area.
Crosses Hiawassee higher up, but it turns into a different name street.
Right.
If it's
So
coming down,
anyway,
then maybe Colonial,
no, no, it's not Colonial.
Washington.
It's a two-name street. It has two names. Um, I can't remember. But nonetheless, I
Hmm.
did the research. And did you know that in every community in Central Florida that is black, that is Puerto Rican, I'm gonna say Puerto Rican,
Yes.
and poor white, but black and Puerto Rican especially, there are no less than 30 liquor stores. No less than 30 liquor stores. And all of them are owned by 4 people. All right. They deliberately put that madness into poor neighborhoods. And what does liquor stores do? One, they create elements of juvenile delinquency, domestic issues generate, high unemployment, car crashes, pollution, petty crimes, prostitution, and then they generate no money in the community. You have never seen a liquor
Wow.
store generate any money in a community. Because when people go to the liquor store, they're not going to another store to buy anything. They get in that pint. They're either going to take it home to drink it, they're going to drink it in their car if they don't go home, or they're going to drink it in some park or under some tree. You know, you know how it is.
You're right.
You know, and so
I've seen
so I
I
was
go.
able, thank to God, that I was able to stop one more. Now some people are hot with me. They're saying that I'm infringing on their capitalist rights. And a couple of these liquor stores are owned by members of religious communities. And I said that I'm more concerned
Seriously.
about the preservation of a community that I love. I want to see the poor, the black, the brown, the yellow. I want to see people who have been polarized and isolated and who have lived in generational poverty to find a step, a ladder to get out of it. And if that means I have to close a liquor store to do it, I would gladly do it. I would do it. In fact, to be honest with you, I can say it now. There are some members in that community, I think Christopher may know, I'm not sure. And they said they have a big sign. Let's go to the city hall to get a permit to take down the sign. I said, ask for permission? You from New York, I'm out of Chicago, New York, and places. We don't ask nobody for
They're
permission.
cousins.
You take it down if you don't want it in your community. We have the right to do that because that's the
That's right.
community we live in. We got to protect it. Just like again, you go to Washington Heights, right? That's a Jewish community. No, 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 no. Well, not Washington Heights. That's Dominican. Over there, Brooklyn Heights,
Heights. Crown Heights.
Brown
Crown Heights,
Heights. Yeah,
Brooklyn.
and you can't get away with stuff
His
there.
city. Oh, they got the
Right.
patrols, everything.
And
Citizen patrol.
that's right, and they have a right to.
Yeah.
All right, that's their element of self-determinism. So we have that same right too. So some people said I'm too militant, but I'm not militant. I just love our people, and I love doing right. Yeah. So
Good one.
so anyway, what time is it there in Ghana?
It's 12:05. And if you wanted to run this till the sun comes up, I'm down with you. Trust me, you know I am.
Oh yeah, no, it's okay.
12:05.
I'm going to.
You have many people
Huh?
loving this, Doctor. There's so many people who are here loving this, and you gotta, even if it's 15 minutes, I know you have a very busy schedule in your campaign, and even if you weren't campaigning, you're doing the
Oh
work.
yeah, you know
You see,
the
I mean,
campaign. This
you can,
campaign is so interesting because I'm running as an independent, and both political parties are corrupt, and I'm trying to teach people of African descent. I'm trying to teach all people. Don't get yourself so tied to a party ideology. Because when you do that, you will be misused. You will be mistreated. You'll be taken advantage of because you would be unable to think out of that ideology. We need to focus on interest. So therefore, if there is a person who is a Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, a member of the Forward Party, whatever, a member of a Communist Party, if they're doing something that is good for our interest, we negotiate with them and back them, not the party. You see? And what has happened, especially with the African American community, they got us so locked in. It's almost as if somebody put some type of canister over our heads with wires to program us to think one party, one party, one party, that we can't get out of it. You know, it's terrible. You know, you get into conversation, well, those Democrats, those Republicans, it's not about party. It's about our interests and who we are as a people and what type of society we want to have. Most people now in the United States, 72% of the American people have said to hell with parties. I mean, look at the parties now, right? With the war. Both parties are war hawks. Both parties want money for the war. Both parties are not doing anything for the homeless and the hungry. Both parties are more in line of keeping a fake argument among themselves as if they're so different. You know what it's like? It's like two siblings in a house, and they have arguments among themselves in the house. But when they go outside, they're brothers and sisters on issues. They don't fight on the outside. And on real issues, they don't fight against each other. And if you try to get between them, they will beat you up. That's how the Republican and the Democratic parties are. They're brothers. They have differences that are minute. But when it comes down to the basic element, economics, they both are supporting a $33 trillion debt. They both say they want to get out of it, but they don't really. They both say they believe in free speech, but they don't, because they want to crack down on whatever you say that is not in line with how they think. They both say that we live in a cultural pluralistic society, which means that you can be anything and still be an American, but no, that's not true either. You either act like us or you isolated. You know, they both say they believe in democracy, but they support countries not based on democracy, but it's based on their economic interest. They overturn democracy, both parties. So if we keep thinking that, oh wow, let's vote for this Republican, let's vote for this Democrat, we're gonna be bamboozled again. In fact about it, we need to be developing a people's party of underclass folk. You know, whereby we have those so-called poor whites that some black people like to make fun of living in trailer parks. And we have those blacks who live in the urban communities that some whites like to make fun of. We need to bring those folks together and then find out that they all have the same enemy. And there's an element that says, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. You begin to find out that there is an interest and there are more things that are common. There's a guy that sung this song I think it was north of Newark, north of Norfolk. You heard that? It's a country song. Are you familiar
I,
with it?
yeah, I couldn't sing it back to you, but I heard it.
I can't sing it back either, but what I remember is great because it's really talking about the plight of the American people, how the everyday folk, how the real people feel, and how they're being taken advantage of by the powers that be. Here's something that's interesting. When the last time you heard about Cornel West? Any news about him?
Nothing really.
It's
No.
remarkable, right? I wasn't sure if I was the only one who picked up on this. Since when he started talking about Israel and they don't have the right to do what they're doing, you haven't heard no more from him.
And I keep
So
up with
see
the
what's taking
news,
place.
and I haven't really. Yeah.
See what's taking place. You know, I just hope that he stays firm. And I'm going to reach out to him. Hopefully, if it's God's willing, I'll be able to get through. If I do, I'll let the listeners know what's going on. You
Yes.
know,
Please do. We depend on you, brother.
I depend on you all. All right. So listen, I'm going to go. I'm going to keep. I'm looking at this knockdown. Francis knocked down Tyson Fury. He
But
knocked
isn't
him
that
down with
something?
it was a glancing blow on the head, but the guy must have some heavy hands.
Oh, he does. He does. Remember, he was trained by Tyson, and in his prior state, like you said, because you hid. Let's give credit where credit's due. Tyson trained him, but you gave him some tips at your house when he came there.
That's
Remember,
right.
there's so much more to
Absolutely.
the eye.
That's right.
You've been a fighter all your life, training and fighting from Chicago all the way down to all over the country. So you know your stuff. You see, you get up and you run, you keep yourself fit. And like I said, when I saw your face on the screen, I thought I had uploaded and projected a show from 11 years ago when we first met. It's like you're getting younger and younger, brother.
All praises are due to Allah. We're getting younger. We're like wine, getting stronger and better.
There you
The
go.
longer you keep wine, it becomes more potent. We're dangerous. We're dangerous. But listen, I'm going to go, and I want
Yes.
to thank you, and I want to thank your thousands and hundreds of thousands of listeners who have taken the time to listen to my rants tonight. And may
Well,
God bless you. Oh, I want all of them. I want your listeners to go to my webpage, Dr. Issa, Dr. Issa for Congress, DRISSA
right here, brother.
for Congress, Dr. Issa for Congress. I don't think I see that name, but I don't think you put up the webpage. So,
Okay, I'll put up the web page is on the
Doc,
bottom of
Dr.
this. Let me
Issa,
stop this from
yeah,
scrolling. You'll see it on the bottom. Okay, hold tight. There you go. It's on the bottom right there
Dr.
in yellow
Issa
letters.
for Congress.com. And please,
Yep.
especially the brothers and sisters who live in the United States, I know things are tough economically. But um, my adversaries have already put in $1.4 million to defeat me. They think that money can.
Wow.
I don't have that type of money, nor am I looking for that type of money. But if I'm able to do 300,000, I will win. I need you all to help me with this. Your pennies, nickels help. It took nickels and dimes to build up the UNIA, the Marcus Garvey movement, that allowed him to buy ships and to do trading and to make factories. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad used nickels and dimes to build the strongest and the largest black economic group, business black group in the country. I'm not asking for as much as you gave to those great men, but I'm asking for nickels and dimes, dollar bills that you can send to us. If you're in Chicago, send it. If you're in Las Vegas or Seattle, send it. Because I promise you that even though I am from Florida, if God willing, and I go to Congress, I will not let you down. I will be that voice that will fight for us. I'll be that voice whereby you can get to me anytime you want. I will go to your community. If it's in the hood in Indianapolis, in the barrios of Albuquerque, New Mexico, in the jungles of South Florida, in the Everglades, I will come to you and I will listen to you. And I'll put, in fact, about it, I'll say it right now. Once there in Washington Hill, they're going to think that my office is a United Nations, a rainbow coalition of different types of people. But people who love humanity and people who want to do right. We're going to change Washington. I'm not going to talk some stuff like Donald Trump drained the pond and all that stuff, but we will change because you have someone in that seat who comes from you. I struggle economically. I have a mortgage to pay. I have bills to pay. I have to rob Peter to pay Paul, just like all of you are. And that's how I would be. So please help us, work with us. Go to my web page. We take PayPal, we take whatever means you have. And then tell other people about us. I guarantee there's not another candidate in this country like me. And I guarantee that once we get to Washington, there would be no other politician. And I hate to use that term, but there would not be a freedom fighter. I would be the only freedom fighter there. That's for you. And you tell the brothers in Africa and sisters, I represent them too. Because one of my first elements and my first line is to close those doggone military bases and stop. You know what the United States is doing right now? They're trying to sanction Mali, and Zimbabwe. Countries that have been under the weight of economic sanctioning for years. And they're literally starving people out. And not one congressional leader, and I'm really ticked off about people who look like us, haven't said a mumbling word about it. Haven't said nothing. You know what, Lance? Let's tell them what it is.
Yes.
Most of our congressional leaders and a few black senators that we have, look at the record. 95% of them has never written a bill, never authored a bill for anything.
Wow.
They go there to vote on other stuff and to look like they're doing something. They haven't authored a bill. They haven't read anything. I mean, right now, the whole world is going towards what? BRICS and the global south. That's the move now. BRICS is going to overtake NATO. NATO is on its way out. BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. It's that coalition. Now they have about 15 or 20 other countries that has joined them. They control 45 to 50% of the world's population and over 78% of the mineral wealth of resources on the globe. We got to deal with that. not in a hostile manner. That means that we have to understand and work with them and negotiate with them and become part of the global family. This American hegemony of being controlled and we're going to send your military. That's out. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to show you how it's out. All those Leopard tanks that the United States sent to Ukraine and all that other madness, destroyed. You said, send it. Send your, $10 billion tanks over here. They burn too. And over 600,000 Ukrainian soldiers have been killed. The F-16s can't get off the ground. So the airstrips are destroyed. The point that I'm saying is that other countries are not afraid of the American military like they used to be. And Americans, young people don't want to fight. They're not equipped to fight. They're most of our young people are obese. The ones who are not, they're not physically ready. And they don't have the strength, mental strength, and the nationalist zeal to do it. So that's why we have a shortfall of over 400,000 men in the military. Then you have other countries that's building great weapons. Iran has built a supersonic missile that can't be stopped. Russia has one. China has it too. We can't get ours off the landing strip. We're right here, Nate and NASA, right by me. They've been testing. They can't. They go up in the air and they blow up. Other countries are becoming strong in every field of endeavor. So therefore, we can't bully people no more. We have to find another way. Every bully gets old. And when they get old, they become vulnerable. It's only a stupid bully who tries to play like he's tough when he's 80, trying to be like he's 20. You can throw down when you're 20, but you can't throw down when you're 80. We are old bully as a nation. We have to change course and get back into the universal family of humanity and begin to understand that we're part of a global neighborhood, that we can be different, we can have arguments, but we can be civil. Civility. Okay, I gotta go now.
Well, I'll cut you off. I'll sit right here and just let it all flow. But yes, brother, I know you're busy. I appreciate you for all you've ever done. Look, I just have to say this really quick for 30 seconds. I've read books of yours, right? I've read books of yours long before I met you. I've read books of yours 20 years before I met you. And when I met you, I'm looking at you. Wait a second, I know you. And it hit me right on that day in 2012. I could not believe it. And we were in Sanford, right outside the courthouse when the George Zimmerman case was going on. All the media was out there. We were out there talking. So when you came around, the media, they all in their trucks were looking and pointing because they knew who you were. Right. It was healthy respect and sometimes ignorant fear when they saw you, but you made an effect.
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to drop that how the universe works. I was a friend of yours from 20 years before I met you. And then you come to my home, we get a chance to break bread and eat. We go up and down Fort Pierce, Tampa, videotaping events. We're sitting with Akbar Muhammad. I mean, you gave me some history, man. You made me feel a part of it.
Yeah.
So thank you so much.
I thank you. I mean, we need more journalists like you. And, the type of journalist you are, actually, you're putting your life on the line now. Do you know how many journalists were killed in the past week in Israel or Gaza.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Over 20 in
The
one week.
truth. Yes.
Over 20. And
And
Israel
before,
stated, don't
Mhm.
expect us to protect them. You believe that?
Wow.
That means
Amazing.
that's really saying that if they're in our way, we'll shoot them ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
That's some hell of a stuff. You know, they're saying they're doing all of this to get the hostages out.
Wow. I know
Story be told, they don't do nothing about
Christopher Blake asked about your new book, Blacklisted, before
Oh
you
yeah,
go.
yeah.
Christopher
I'm
Blake.
gonna send that to you. That's going to be out in a couple of weeks. Forward by Cornell, and it's a piece that talks about how freedom fighters, regardless of ethnicity and race, how they've been silenced throughout the 20th century, but now in the 21st century, it has been the silencing has increased to the point that if you don't play ball, you will be either incarcerated forever or killed. All right. And that's
Wow.
where we are now. And it says, I argue that we're living in a new police military state. All right. And no and none of us who are freedom fighters are safe. None of us. Somebody said the other day, well, if that's true, aren't you afraid? I said that if you believe in a God, you're not afraid because you believe that you'll go to heaven anyway. And secondly, we're all going to die. We just don't know how. So it's best to put it on the table that you died for something. Put it out
Exactly.
there. All right. I mean, because we just, who wants to die, just sitting down doing nothing? What they did their whole life, nothing.
Right. That's what I say.
You know,
That's what I say.
and that's why and that's how they got black people to think. That's why it's not an accident. You see a brother, hey, how you doing? What's going on? Nothing going on, bro. You know,
Real.
where you going? Nowhere. What you thinking about? Nothing. Then you say, then you rest around and say, hey, that's my nigga. What are you saying? What does nigga mean? Nigga, it comes from a Latin word that means necro, which means nothing.
Right.
So you're saying, that's my brother, he's nothing. Because he'll never be anything. Because he's doing nothing.
Right.
Words are very powerful. You
see that?
Words are very, very powerful. And our sisters are just as bad. They call each other the B word.
Yeah.
Hey, bitch.
I'm a boss.
All of that.
Yeah.
I'm a cool bitch.
I'm the baddest. I'm the baddest B.
Yeah. And what are you saying about yourself? You have no integrity, no decency about yourself. Even in intimacy with our people. Even in intimacy with our people.
Mm-hmm.
We having, at one time lovemaking was decent.
Right.
Now you're having people spitting on each other, urinating on each other.
Mm-hmm.
Excrement.
Yeah.
Just pure filth.
Right.
Where have you gone? This whole saga with, what is that, Will Smith and his wife, Jada Pinkett. It's horrible. I mean,
the son's
people
friend.
have issues,
Yeah.
right? People have issues. But you bring it on Front Street? If you want to have an open marriage, that's your business. I don't condone it, but that's you. If you want to bring 3, 4, 5 people in your bedroom, that's your business. Right?
Yep.
But it's not something that you put it out there as if it's normal.
Yeah.
You see?
They did that from early.
We have lost all element, again, this big word, civility. We have lost it all. into now, we're functioning like a beast,
Yeah.
thinking like
But
a beast.
could you believe how fast this drop into the never-ending abyss of decadence has happened? I tell people, like, I was born in 63, but my parents taught me so much that I was aware of what was going on more so in the late 60s. Even though I was 5 and 6 years old, coming into the 70s, I remember everything, man. And I remember the vibe of the world. And I say, listen, we had heroin, we had war, we had high gas prices and unemployment, but it didn't affect us because we had unity more so. Even the drug dealer and the heroin user would tip their hat when they saw the grandmother coming home from church. Even if she stopped by the numbers joint before she came home, they helped her with the bags home. There was a certain level you did not go down below. Look at it now. And look, I feel, I feel good. I feel young, but I feel like I'm 150 years old because it feels like that world that I grew up in now. When you got a favorite because they're wearing dresses and promoting other things. Everything is anti-family, anti-community, anti-nature.
Yeah. I mean, like, who died this week? Fred Williamson, right?
Yeah.
And he was in the movie of what is it? Not Superfly. What is the other one? Shaft. Shaft, big score. Shaft, right?
Shaft. Yeah.
Yeah. And check out his persona in the movie and his persona in life. He represented an intelligent black man.
Yes.
He represented a cool black man. He represented a
That's
tough
right.
black man. He represented a forward-thinking black man. And he represented a black man who enjoyed being manly. Check that out. And that's what we expected at that time, manly. You don't see those images any longer. Smart, intelligent, tough, cool, and being a man.
Right. Right.
The other day, I had an African outfit on, one of my African attire, and this lady who was dressed like a man said to me, "What shit do you have on?"
What?
Yeah. And I just smiled. I just looked. And I walked away. And I'm saying to myself, she can say that because we have allowed ourselves to be conditioned that if a woman dresses like a man and act like a man, it's normal behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And a woman and a man dressed like a woman and act like a woman is normal behavior.
Yes.
In the Bible, it says during the last days, and in the Quran,
Right.
what is right would be wrong, and what is wrong would be right. That's where
right.
we are now.
So fast though, and it's by
Oh,
design.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, like that. But anyway, I'm going to go for sure. And
Yes,
I
bro.
want to thank again all of you people who listened. And if anybody want to, you can put my email up there, Lance, if you
Yeah.
want. You can always email me, and I will respond to every email, everyone.
Okay.
You know, if they want
And
to
I'll
talk, argue, or just bitch, it's fine.
give it to me right now. Give it to me right now, and I'll put it in the chat room, and I'll
Yeah,
put it in the description area below afterward. Your email.
it's WM Vent, VENT, at
Mm-hmm.
gmail.com. WM, like in Mary,
Mm-hmm.
V, like in victory, ENT. WMVent at gmail.com. Oh, next
Oh,
time I come on, I must tell you about my conversation with Robert Kennedy.
looking forward to hearing that one. All right, brother.
All right, then. May Allah bless you. Thank you again.
Thank you again, brother.
All right, bye-bye.
Brother. Peace. I'm gonna put up this banner one more time. I think I locked my keyboard. I wasn't able to put that email address, but I'll put it in the description area below. And Brother Christopher, I'm looking forward to hearing from you. We'll connect before Tuesday, but that's written in stone. And I look forward to speaking with our brother every time he comes on, because he has a presence about him. And like I say, he's been to my home in Orlando countless times, you know, sitting around a table, coming to the studio, doing shows. And those were golden times. And I have to say that, you know, I wouldn't trade those times in for anything at all. And it's just, you feel proud when you're around good people that have good spirits and that stand for something, they're about something. You know, back in the day, I could imagine, and I'm not going to stretch this out too long, because I might come back on later on with another good show. You know, we're going to run it in the dirt tonight, right? I do feel it a little bit, but I do feel like, you know, hitting that 15th round and just exhausting everything and winning the decision for the day. But when you think about history, when history is being made, folks don't always know that history is being made. It's being documented, but we don't always know how important it is, the things that we do in our life when we stand for something. And it's only when we have a little time between that time of our effort, which the efforts should never stop, but when you have a body of work, a trail behind you as you move forward to do even more with each passing day, and you begin to see, then you understand. And it's not the bad pride, but it's a righteous pride that you're in your destiny and you're moving forward. And even though we all have obstacles in our way as we move into our destiny, we have to understand that we will be the winner at the end of the day. And we will have challenges, because the higher the vibration of our work is, the more these entities who want to bring us down will come at us. When you have nothing going on, when you have no desire to have anything going on, when you may not even know what it is that you want to do, but you have no desire to feel around to see what it is, those negative forces have you. And they'll have you get caught up in all types of things, that knowing that you're a diamond in the rough. The negative energies know that, but you may not know that. You may just think you're a broken piece of glass sitting on the sidewalk, when in actuality, you're a diamond. And so every time I speak with Vibrant White, aka Dr. V. Issa, it reinforces me to know that if I had fallen off, I wouldn't have the chance to speak with him here and to share this with you. If I had fallen off, I've never had the temptation of alcohol or drugs, but if I did that and wrecked up my life, I wouldn't be here. So his presence is like when you see a stitching in the garment. The stitching has to come out to go back in to hold the garment together. So the more we put people in our lives, whether they're visible, public, or private, because I have some private individuals here who undergird me, and I have to say that I love you all very much. This gives me life. This makes me want to live longer and keep going on. You see? And I really meant that when I saw my brother come on the screen first. I'm like, wait a second, did I upload a video from years ago that we did? Because there's many, if you Google the name, you'll see and pull up many hours and hours and hours of footage, not even just at the studio or at the home, but out and about doing important things. And he's afforded me to be there with him. So he's always done the work of righteousness, whether it was under the guise of running for Congress, or as a Muslim, or as just a human being trying to make the world a better place more than what it was before he got there. And that's what we all should do. But before we do that, we need to know that we need to improve ourselves and clean up from within, because we can't be used as a righteous tool if we're not cleaned up from within. So that therefore we have homework to do on ourselves. Even when we're moving forward in our destiny, look, when you're on, sure that you stay tuned up. You got to make sure that this symbolic oil must be changed. The transmission must be checked. So we all have the potential to be better. And all I say, using his example, And even Brother Christopher, who came on, who's about the veterans. We're going to talk with him on Tuesday. Let's just make sure we make ourselves better, because the better we make ourselves, the more we're able to serve. Like a garden tool that gets dull, it can't serve its purpose unless it gets sharpened. So let's keep ourselves sharpened so we can do a better job time and time again. And it's just a pleasure. I hate to go. I'm trying to line something up very entertaining right now that maybe we can come on in another hour. I will break night to bring another show tonight. If I can make it happen, I can't promise, but I'm going to bring someone on and we're going to have a very, very interesting conversation. Other than that, I just want to say good night for now, but keep your eye open. And if you fall asleep, keep one eyelid open on those notifications that they come in. Check the channel if you can. I'm going to try my best to come back, and just know that I love you all. And thanks for coming tonight, and share it. That's all I can say. Much love.